From further afield. As we know, Nene resigned under controversial circumstances 2 days ago after admitting that he had in fact met the Guptas at their compound after previously saying that he hadn't. We're joined now from Mumbai by our India correspondent Bundhun for more on that, as well as the latest on the hashtag MeToo movement that is gaining momentum in India. Rebecca, very good morning to you and thanks for your time. Let's start first with our financial woes here. Hopefully there won't be woes for much longer, but I'd just like to know what's been reaction on that side to what's been happening here with our former finance minister Nene finally admitting that he had met the Guptas at their compound several times, and then our change of finance minister, we now have Tito Mboweni as our finance minister. What's the talk there about South Africa and our economic problems?
When we see the story reported here in India, it's very much those Gupta connections that are of interest. Of course, India has been trying to strengthen ties with South Africa. This year we saw Modi at the BRICS summit in South Africa, for example. So the story is also of interest here, but it is very much those Gupta issues that always is the issue that comes up when the story is being reported here. With the Guptas being from the north of India, from Saharanpur in India, and the fact that they have been facing their own investigations in India as well, with accusations of tax problems and so on. They've been accused of, perhaps money laundering or money being disguised as donations to a temple that they're building in their hometown of Saharanpur. That's been another allegation against them here. So those problems have been very much in focus in India, and they've been brought up again with the resignation of South Africa's finance minister. It reminds people of those challenges that the Guptas have faced in India with those investigations that have been taking place by the income tax authorities this year. They were summoned a number of times to appear before authorities, which they failed to actually appear before the income tax department.
Now, there was an interview with Ajay Gupta earlier this year. I think it was around March, Rebecca. What did he have to say about all these allegations about being implicated in all these possible wrongdoings?
That's right. Ajay Gupta was in Saharanpur in May, and he met local journalists there. I also managed to speak to him over the phone during his media interaction with journalists. He was very, very keen to try to clear his name. He was actually in Saharanpur. It was ahead of a pilgrimage that he was going on to a Hindu temple in North India with other members of his family. He's been in India a few times this year, also for weddings and other ceremonies. He's been spotted here on other occasions as well. But in May, he did choose to interact with journalists, and it was because he wanted to clear his name. And what he told me, and what he also told other journalists, was that he was not guilty of any offences. That that these accusations against him were completely untrue and unfounded. He's very convinced that the state would have a hard time proving that he is guilty of any offence at all.
So, anybody know now where? I mean, I think we actually have a bite from that interview, and let's take a listen to that before we move on to more discussions, Rebecca.
और ये बात आप लोगों को इस दावे के साथ कहता हूँ कि वो कितने भी केस डाल सकते हैं, एक भी केस नहीं जीत सकते, एक सिंगल.
All right, Rebecca, just following up from that, does anybody know where the Guptas are at the moment? Anybody in India have any clue?
I think that's what everybody wants to know. The last time we understand that they were actually in Dubai, but they have made these regular visits to India this year, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see them here again. Certainly, Ajay Gupta in the near future. He said he will continue to keep visiting India. It's his hometown is in North India, and he has these connections here. They have homes here and so on. So we're likely to see see them back in India soon, I'm sure.
All right, so the Gupta is the big talk for us here, but back in India there is a bigger issue that everyone's concentrating on. It's the hashtag MeToo movement that is actually gaining momentum there. I mean, Rebecca, give us some idea. We saw what was happening in Hollywood, in Bollywood itself. What are we hearing? Who's been implicated?
A lot of people in India are saying this is long overdue, because we're talking about it's over a year since we saw that global movement first starting, and there were these kind of we sort of started to hear things in India. People were starting to talk about this and saying that there were certain figures in Bollywood that there were the equivalent of Harvey Weinstein's in Bollywood. But suddenly in the past few days we've seen this really gaining momentum, and it's exploded. So we've seen actresses accusing Bollywood stars of harassment. One of those is Nene. He's denied these accusations against him. And it's not only Bollywood that we're seeing in this case. It's also figures from the media, and it's also gone to politics as well. We're seeing a political figure, a minister of state, who is also being accused by a number of women of cases of harassment. So, that's also made the issue a political subject, and the opposition party is putting the pressure on the government to take some kind of action. Narendra Modi, he's been sort of a champion of women's rights before. He's talked about gender equality and so on. So that's adding to the pressure. But so it's Bollywood stars, it's comedians, it's journalists as well. We've seen one senior a journalist editor from one of the biggest national newspapers here in India having to step down because of the accusations of sexual harassment against him. So it's become huge in India, and by the day this is something that's escalating. More and more names are being revealed.
Well, we'll continue to keep an eye on that story there, and it's bound to get bigger and bigger. Thank you very much, Rebecca Bundhun.